In Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Huck Finn is a vagabond teenager who's running away from his father, the town drunk. He's rafting down the Mississippi River with Jim, a slave who is escaping from his owner, the widow Douglas. Jim plans to make some money in Indiana and then to return to rescue his children from slavery. Huck struggles mightily with his conscience. He's not only breaking the law by helping Jim escape, but he's an accomplice in Jim's bigger plot to steal his children. The widow Douglas has always been kind to Huck, and here he is, assisting in the theft of her legal property. His conscience tells him that he must turn Jim in to the authorities. But in the end, Huck's human feeling for Jim wins out. He knows it is wrong to help him, but he would prefer to live with a bad conscience and go to hell than to ignore Jim's humanity. You and I, of course, know that he did the right thing. Your conscience, you're pretty sure, would have told you that it would be wrong to turn Jim in. So for you, helping to free Jim would have been an act of conscience, not an act against conscience. But that would be too quick. If your conscience had been formed by the culture of the antebellum South, you might very well have believed that it was morally wrong to help a runaway slave. And you might very well, like Huck, have helped him anyway. The culture factor is the big idea this week. Our consciences are initially formed by our cultures. Our mothers, our neighbors, our teachers, our churches tell us what to do, and quite often, they don't mean maybe. And so, we grow up with firm convictions about what's right and wrong. We're surprised then when we first meet people who speak bizarre languages, eat peculiar foods, and listen to weird music. We can't help but think at first that their way is inferior to our way. And this goes double for our moral convictions. So our automatic theory, perhaps our naive theory of morality, is that culture serves as the final factor, that adhering to our cultural norms is the surefire way to live our lives as members of humankind. One version of this, cultural imperialism, says, my culture is right and all others are wrong. A kinder and gentler version, cultural relativism, says, my culture is right for me and your culture is right for you. But once you shift out of automatic mode and start thinking philosophically about it, the problems for these theories turn out to be devastating. Consider just one problem, the problem of moral improvement. If culture is the final factor, then cultures cannot make moral progress. If they are what determines morality, then whatever they approve is moral. Their members cannot come to see that they are perpetuating values that are morally wrong, since their values are, by definition, morally right. But cultures do improve morally. Cultures come to see that oppression of women is wrong, that child labor is wrong, that anti-Semitism is wrong, and yes, that slavery is wrong. How does this happen? Often it happens exactly the way it happened for Huck. They recognize the humanity in those they are harming, and they see that there is a way of living as a member of humankind that can benefit the me circle and the us circles at the same time, and they improve. I offer two warnings, however. First, this is not the moment to be smug, to assume that our culture is morally arrived. The American Ghanaian philosopher Kwame Anthony Appiah has written a powerful essay entitled, What Will Future Generations Condemn Us For? Today, we condemn the slavery of the antebellum South. But does our culture similarly blind us? Why not? For if we have blind spots, we can't see them. Are we conveniently oblivious to the humanity of the elderly who are warehoused and forgotten in facilities? Are we expediently diminishing the humanity of the millions of those who suffer in our prisons? Are we pretending that the animals we eat do not share important elements of humanity with us? This is a good reason, in other words, to be slow to judge other cultures, including past ones, and to be quick to turn a critical eye upon our own. Warning number 2. Its failure as a final factor is no reason to dismiss culture as a powerful force for morality. Whether we look to the teachings of Confucius more than 2.5 millennia ago, or to today's communitarian philosophers such as Charles Taylor, we find abundant reason for finding within our culture a sense of identity and a sense of meaning in life. These are moral treasures, as long as we do not lose ourselves in our community, and as long as we do not forget that every culture likes to pit us versus them. And so every culture has room to make moral progress. The culture factor. It can't serve as an objective, universal, and compulsory standard, but it is nevertheless an essential element for living our lives as useful members of humankind. And that's the big idea for week 2.